Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Turbo coin. Now, I always have to say this right in the beginning, just in case, just because of recent events that, you know, technical analysis, I believe it is king 99% of the times. But, ladies and gentlemen, right, when you have something like a potential world war, that is above technical analysis, in my opinion. Now, as of right now, it is only, war tensions. I say only very lightly. Obviously, it's not only, it's a lot more than that. But, I just had to say it. But look, we're going to dive into the charts right now. Okay. Overall, right, when you look at the higher time frame, this actually does look beautiful with Ondo. Not Ondo, Turbo. Sorry, I just created an Ondo video. I had to create some in advance, going on a flight very, very soon. So yeah, we can see, right? Boom. We are holding very, very well. And the last couple of weeks have been bearish, but we knew they're going to be bearish. Already the reversals we called back in the beginning of May. Did we think there was going to be some type of resurgence sooner? Did we think there's going to be some type of resurgence and pump to 0.008? Yes, but that was based off of global liquidity. Now, unfortunately, something like global liquidity is getting less and less reliable. We know for the most part, especially when it came to Bitcoin, right? When it came to Bitcoin, we know that these key areas of the top, the bottom, and honestly, this whole leg over here was extremely reliable for global liquidity and Bitcoin. It was following it to the T. Now, Turbo wasn't necessarily following 100% the way Bitcoin was, but it was still following it fairly well, right? And that is just the reality. That is just the reality. If we go and look at, let's say, the 91-day delay here, we can see that, yeah, it's already was selling off a little before. So it's not following exactly, but we also do know that this coin does have a tendency of pumping and dumping a little bit earlier, okay? Because when the market started to shift, we were literally one of the first coins to have a huge pump. And we broke records, right? Let's not forget that we broke massive, massive records with Turbo over a month ago. But it's still something notable because this could be a sign for the future. Now, back to the price action, right? We can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks have been sells. Compared to this 3 weeks of buys, the sells still haven't eaten up all of the buying pressure, which is good. And it's been double the amount of time. The only thing that's a big if is what is Bitcoin going to do? Because of the world circumstances surrounding Bitcoin, this chart does not look healthy and it does look like it just wants to drop and tank. Okay. But because of global liquidity and because of the structure we're in and the 3-month candle we're in for Bitcoin, this could be very well a scenario like this, which is why I'm just waiting for confirmation on the smaller time frame. In order for me to get confirmation on the smaller time frame, we would have to start closing above $107,600. Okay, we need to start reclaiming these levels for Bitcoin. Otherwise, coins like Turbo will see a drastic drop. Because we very may well have a scenario kind of like this, where we were holding decently well in February, but the moment the March candle happened, we just tanked below our support, right? And once we tank below the support, the next relevant zone is practically 0.0023. So a 35% drop from where we're currently at. So it's not ideal. It's not ideal for anybody unless you're looking to dollar cost average. Now, I do believe price action would have been better if it wasn't for the war, but it is what it is. And we cannot, we don't dictate what happens in the world. We simply see what the technical analysis says, right? Just in case some people get confused, me thinking it's going to actually hold this zone is very different than me getting confirmation of Turbo holding this zone. Okay. Speculation, key zones are one thing. Confirmations are another. It is why I was able to call out the reversals of Turbo when it broke structure here. Okay. I speculated already a week before that we were going to sell off, but we didn't have any confirmations, right? The closer we had to confirmations was over here, beginning of May. But then we had the pump, the Ethereum, Bitcoin went crazy. But then once we broke this structure, that's when I was like, okay, this thing is going to sell off, right? Sure, it took kind of a while, but then, you know, we got more and more structure confirmation. Once we had this big dip and I saw price action was weak for the first 2-3 days, I was like, yeah, this thing is going to sell off, because that's how technical analysis works. The speculation of reversals happening here was just speculations, because I saw, you know, price getting weaker, but I never had a confirmation. I saw we're off a certain zone. So that's one thing to note, that just because, you know, I mark up this zone or mark up the 0.0023, that doesn't mean automatically it's going to hold. We need to see confirmation. For us to start getting confirmation, for one, like I said, Bitcoin needs to absolutely start going to the upside. But for Turbo, we need to start reclaiming levels, because we have created another, we can see another low over here, right? We have not very, very, very pretty. Not a very pretty sight for wanting the coin to go up higher. Now, I will say though, it is technically higher than this point here, but it does kind of seem like it's like holding on to a thread. It just seems like it's barely holding on. So I would like to see some type of nice momentum to the upside, reclaim this level, come back down, have another higher low, and then eventually reclaim this, and of course get above this structure over here. Even if worst case scenario, we kind of start ranging, that wouldn't be the worst thing, because usually when you start to range, right, depending how the candles start closing with the key details, you usually are looking for an upside. Okay, you usually are, because sure, on the bigger picture, when we actually look, this would be the channel going down. If we did get more sideways movement, this would be the accumulation, and eventually we would get the breakup, and that's when the big nice pumps would start happening. But of course, like I said, this is just more speculation. What I'd really want to see for daily candle closes is definitely some type of big bullish structure, and not just right to this zone, right? If we sell off this zone, then for me, that's just market manipulation to go lower. I would like to really start seeing the 0.0045 getting reclaimed before I can make any big bullish confirmations. Okay, but yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. We can see actually before we end that, you know, last time around when Turbo started to reverse, it had these bottoms, it created nice highs, and then it held these bottoms, right? And then we can just see how the momentum started to shift, and then we exploded, right? So I want to see something similar, because this price action over here looks nothing like this, right? So I want to start seeing some type of lifeline. Hopefully we'll get one. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.